Hey, what's going on, everybody? I wanted to do this live stream based on the interviews from today's practice. Also, talk about yesterday's practice as well. There's a little bit of news. You can check out information on InsideTheU.com. I have some content there. There's some other videos of De'Aaron King and Manny Diaz talking after practice. So definitely check those out. But I want to talk about the Miami Florida State game and any questions you guys might have. Appreciate everybody jumping on right now. I know it's last minute or late notice, that kind of thing, but I just want to do this kind of real quick as we touch base on, again, what happened after today's practice. So after today's practice, Manny Diaz jumped on the Zoom calls and he talked, had some questions for him. There's a little bit some status updates on injuries, so I'll get to that. And then also today, we had De'Aaron King, punter Lou Headley, and offensive lineman right tackle Jared Williams. So definitely I want to get to those as well. And Keyshawn Smith, I know you're a fan. I'm glad to hear it. We'll get to Keyshawn. That's a good topic to talk about as well. So just talking real quick with Manny Diaz, and what I've kind of noticed these last couple of weeks is we're getting these Zoom call information on each day. And the last two Wednesdays, Manny's not showed up in terms of expected to talk, but then he jumps on and talks. So we all kind of, come up with questions all of a sudden. So in case you're kind of wondering maybe some of the reasons for those questions. So you Goldwire's here, what up? Shout out to you. Glad you're here. But one of the things that came up, and I wanted to ask Manny because I'm working on a story on the wide receivers, kind of getting more production from those players. So I asked, Rhett Lashley how things are coming along, his thoughts on it. And then I asked Manny that today and De'Aaron King as well. And so I want to directly talk about those real quick. What's going on? Colbert's here. Glad you're here. Always glad you jump on these. But the one thing Manny said was that stood out to me was he said that basically he feels like the production will be there. Right now they're working on passing to the open guy, and that's the thing. And he definitely feels like at some point or by the end of the season or however the season goes, he thinks the wide receivers, the production will be there. So they are still confident in that. And I think that's a good sign. I also, in a way, I don't want to make too big of a deal of the wide receiver production in the sense that, look, if they have an above average tight end and Brevin's going to lead them in receiving, and I talked about him earlier this week about some of the numbers he's putting up. He leads all tight ends in the country, or no tight end has more receptions or receiving yards than Brevin Jordan right now. And that could be their strength, and it's okay to have strengths if it's not balanced, or, the wide receivers, maybe they aren't going to be as productive. So, and maybe they're just going to stick with this running game, and maybe that's just where the strengths are going to be. So it's not like they have to produce at wide receiver automatically or for them to be successful or any of those things. I'm just kind of wondering if they do want to get to that production level that they would like. And obviously you guys know that, having production at different position units is important. So that's the one thing. Manny's still confident in the receivers. And then De'Aaron said, okay, so on Mondays, the team doesn't have an official practice, so to speak. But I asked about De'Aaron because De'Aaron said after the game that he felt like that they wanted to work on their connection and things like that. And he talked about how on Mondays they don't have an official practice, but they came out there on Monday to watch film with the receivers. And then he said they still stay after practice each day and work on a few things, which isn't a surprise because we heard Mike Harley spoke earlier, I think last month during preseason camp before the season started, or maybe right when it did. But basically Mike said, look, if there's a play in practice that's not working, we stay after that practice and then we'll work on that play. So the fact that the season has started strikes me as that's going to be something that they're going to do as they continue to build and continue to work towards, once again, getting that production at the receiver position. As far as the Brevin Jordan stuff, one of the things that, on the website, if you guys haven't checked out InsideTheU.com, plenty of information. Right now we've got a deal, 60% off a VIP annual subscription. So it comes out to just over $42 for the year. If you guys want to take advantage of that, it's a great time to do it. And one of the VIP things that I did this week was about Brevin Jordan and how they're moving him around differently than the first 2 years that he's been at Miami. And again, I know it's only 2 games, but it is a new offensive coordinator. The production is there from Brevin. So I broke that down in terms of where he's lining up, whether it's in line like a normal tight end, in the backfield, also maybe in the slot or out wide like a receiver. So I thought it was very interesting, those numbers, because they are drastic right now. And I think that what also you got to remember is they're on he's on his third coordinator, just shuffling away from the Mark Richt, Thomas Brown stuff, and into Dan Enos and now with Rhett Lashley. So it's 3 different coordinators. So I found the numbers to be very interesting because once again, the production is there right now for Brevin. So you can check that out article. Actually, you know what? After this is over, I'm going to go ahead and I'll link that. I'll provide the link on the comments so you guys can check that out. If you guys have a subscription and missed it, or if you're thinking about subscribing today, and like, maybe you're curious about that. So I'll go ahead and post that as well. So what's going on here? Okay, Martin's here. Glad you're here. And then, I know people being negative. I know it's just kind of what it is because you don't see everything being perfect and fans want more. And I don't know. I thought maybe that, just sometimes even just the fact that they're playing games right now where a lot of teams are not, just playing games and winning and going from unranked to 12, you've got to be satisfied. Obviously things aren't always, they're not perfect. Is this a national title caliber team? You wouldn't say that based on the other national titles that they've won. So I just think, and also with the 0-3 ending to last year was awful. So I think you've got to be encouraged because there's a lot of excitement when the offense is doing well. There's a lot of excitement that generates with a good offense. And I think people should maybe just kind of appreciate it because once again, we've seen the alternative. So we'll see. And hopefully, obviously, Miami gets a win this week against Florida State. You don't want any setbacks like that as you're preparing to contend, to get in that ACC championship game, obviously with Clemson in 2 weeks after the Florida State. So they go bye week, then Clemson. And that'll obviously, I think that's on a lot of people's minds because maybe you're looking at it, okay, can they beat Clemson? They've got to be much better in certain areas. So I think maybe that's where some of the criticism does come from. Talking about other guys today. So Jared Williams talked offensive tackle. Things struck me about him. Again, transfer from Houston. He's played a lot of football in his career. He transfers to Miami as a grad student, playing right tackle, started the first 2 games, playing solid. I think it's a good spot for him. He's settling in there. I personally, obviously you guys heard me before. I thought giving him a left tackle would have been good, but he's at right tackle and settling in and doing well. And the thing that he said that stood out to me was, so they talked about, it's his first Miami Florida State game, obviously, and he's not from the area. So getting to know maybe what this rivalry is all about. And the thing that's standing out to him that stood out to me with the things he said was things are a lot more serious right now. Just how serious the fans are taking this rivalry, practices, those kind of things. And I think it's great that he's noticing these things. I think it's what you want your program to be in terms of these big games, making sure everyone understands the importance and the value of playing well and getting the result in games like this. So I thought that was good that he's already recognizing it. And to me, it didn't seem like just words. It seemed like he really is noticing these things. And that's what you want. Once again, that's what you want in a program going into a big game. And especially for guys like that are getting used to this rivalry. De'Aaron King's another one. Bubba Bolden spoke yesterday. And he said he's just now kind of, getting used to what it's like. He grew up in Southern, he played obviously in Las Vegas, but played at USC. So different part of the country for sure, as he's getting used to this and everything. So that'll be important. Everybody certainly wants to rise their game to the occasion and play well against a team that is struggling right now. And Miami's looking to make it 4 straight over Florida State. And there's some other things with interviews, some questions I had to different guys like Bubba. I was asking about Terry, the Florida State receiver, 6'4", about 210, good size, downfield threat. I'm going to have an article later on this week about that facing that. And I think one thing that helps with Miami in that particular matchup is they've faced big receivers now the last 2 weeks. Watkins, the first game, I think he was about 6'2", about 6'3", well over 200 pounds. So they did well against him, although he did score a touchdown. And then last week, obviously a lot of attention on Tutu Atwell. But Des Fitzpatrick, a good-sized receiver. He's actually number 2 right now in the ACC in receiving. So it goes Atwell, Fitzpatrick, and Jordan. Those are your top 3 leaders in receiving yards through the first 2 games here for the ACC. So talked about that, and I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. I think another interesting matchup, talking about Jared Williams, is going to be that front 7 of Florida State. Look, I know Florida State's struggling with their offense and things like that, and they're still working through things, even though they've got guys like Terry who can make plays and are threats without question. That front 7 does have a lot of size, and with Marvin right there in the middle, and just, they've got good size at linebackers. And I know that there are some struggles with Florida State, and Miami should be fine, but just that front 7, if you're looking at a matchup where Miami look, they've got to take advantage of that and not get overwhelmed there, or else it's not going to be, this 47-point offensive blowout or output, that kind of thing. So like I said, certainly Florida State has things to work on, but there is some matchup stuff that could give Miami a little bit of trouble because you don't want to get that running game shut down, and you don't want De'Aaron King to come under pressure with the offensive line, who's played pretty solid the first 2 weeks. You just don't want any setbacks, and you don't want Florida State, to, even though they're struggling on offense, to be able to do enough because they're giving Miami troubles. You just don't want any of that. What's going on? Okay, so we got some people in here. Phil DeCanis here. Glad you're here. It feels like you're always here. That's great. Beach Bum is here. Shout out to you. Miami Flow Football, always here. Appreciate your support. All kinds of good stuff. Are we going to do a simulation? Colbert, yes. You know what? And I've been thinking about the simulation things, and I feel bad because I was looking back, and usually, you saw those sneak peeks I was doing with just the first quarter, all off season and different teams. I just did not get around to the Florida State one. And I just noticed that. So I want to do a full game simulation for sure. Definitely want to make sure I got the ratings tweaked and as accurate as possible. So I definitely want to do that. And there's another thing I'm working on too with that game coming up. So I've got some stuff I'm working on before the game. And Colbert, I'm not sure exactly. I've been doing it the night before the game. So it was easy the first week because we did it on a Wednesday before Thursday's game. And then last week we're starting to get in this Saturday schedule. And I just didn't feel I don't feel great about the Friday simulation thing because high school football is such a big deal. And I know many of you like paying attention to that. So I'm thinking maybe we'll back it up to Thursday. But also I know there's a lot of excitement like the night before the game. Let's do something kind of neat and cool. So I'm just, I'm kind of weighing it back and forth. If you have an opinion, let me know. Or obviously I can't check everybody's schedules. But I want to make sure, people can see. And obviously when it's over with, if you didn't jump on the stream, you can check that out also and make sure you get enough time to do that. So maybe Thursday would be better, just kind of thinking there. So what's going on? Okay, so we got some Florida State fans in here. And I know Mason's been, I don't see him on here yet, but Mason's a huge Florida State fan, but he's also a huge supporter of the channel. I think you guys have seen him jump on and always appreciate his support. So hopefully he jumps on at some point or checks us back later because I always appreciate all the support. It's been not just Miami fans, with everything that's been going on with the simulations and other things here. So touching base on a few more things with today's post-practice interviews, kind of going back to what Manny Diaz said, asked about injuries. There's a lot of uncertainty right now going on with Jeremiah Payton. Didn't play last week on the unavailability report. And Manny wasn't definite that he definitely hasn't said, yes, Jeremiah is definitely playing. So there's a little uncertainty, although he did say he does think things will come back positive, like in a good news on Friday. So we just have to wait maybe Friday, Saturday, as we start to get a little bit more news about Jeremiah specifically. The other player that was mentioned was Larry Hodges, third string tight end. But I think there's a lot of interest right now in Jeremiah Payton. And is he going to have, can he provide that production at wide receiver that you're hoping for the unit? Just the one catch in the opener, sits out the second game. You definitely just, on Jeremiah's standpoint, you don't want him to get in this bad start because you're hoping for a productive season. Last year, just the one catch in the 4 games he played. So you're just hoping for that production because you guys all see his production, right? Or his talent, his abilities. You guys are excited about him. I think a lot of people asked, hey, can Miami have this true number 1 receiver? I think people are starting to maybe look elsewhere. Jeremiah Payton, is he that guy? Because you're starting to see, okay, D. Wiggins, you're starting to see what he's about, and Mark Pope and Mike Harley. So maybe you guys are maybe hoping for somebody, maybe a Jeremiah Payton, to really take ownership of that group. So I think that's why there's a lot of excitement and interest right now in Jeremiah Payton. So touching on a few other injuries, had an article on the site already posted on Navon Donaldson. And the question and what Manny said was, because there's a little uncertainty, Navon made the announcement in the summer, he's going to redshirt, right? But Navon didn't say, I want to play in only 4 games when they had that, when that was the previous plan. So you assumed he was out for the year. And then Manny comes out last month and says, yes, there's a possibility that we'll get him back because they might change the redshirt rule to 4 to 6 games. That was when that was going on. And then now, obviously, this year doesn't count towards status. So now it's, if any player plays in 6, 7 games, whatever, it doesn't matter because that won't count as a year against him. So today, Manny said that Navon is working with the team. He's not cleared for full contact practice. I think it's good that we're hearing that he's working with the team. I think that's a positive sign in the sense that maybe there is hope that they are going to try to get him back. He is getting some work in with the trainers and things like that. It's not like he's just at home, not around and those kind of things. So I think that is a positive sign. But Manny didn't say definitely that he's going to, hopefully we get him back by November or at some point this year. He kind of didn't say that. So we'll see. And I think a lot of that will have to do with the play of the offensive line. You're talking about Navon Donaldson, over 30 career starts, 3-year starter. Certainly there's some things he can work on to get better, but I think everybody would appreciate, I think he's got a place on the offensive line in the sense that they could use another body in there. Although, in particular with left guard, because that's where he started last year, and left guard, right now we've seen 2 different guys start in the first 2 games. So they're certainly going to have to play well as things go on. But again, if the offensive line is clicking, and we saw this in the first game, Miami makes a move with Clark there in the second game. But Rhett Lashley said, he just flat out said that he felt like things were going well enough in the first game that they didn't need to make the move. And that's why Ja'Kai didn't play very much, but then he gets to start afterwards. So in my mind, I'm taking that situation, I'm interpreting it in the fact that, look, if the offensive line is playing well, offense is doing well, and they're winning games, then maybe they're not going to try to plug Donaldson in there, even if he is healthy. Maybe they'll just stick with the 5 they have. But certainly anything can happen, and we'll see. I just think it's definitely something to monitor. And I think you obviously can't have enough bodies there on the offensive line moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, what else do we got here? We got all kinds of... Zoo Pride is here. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. You're always here as well. I like seeing familiar names. It's great that things are going well because, again, these streams, once again, not always a lot of notice with them and kind of just playing things out. But the other thing Manny said was after today's practice about injuries, Avante Williams, still the plan is, he's getting some work done, but they still expect him to play football again. I think there was a little uncertainty or a little talk out there that maybe he's going to have an issue, but Manny definitely said that he's going to. So there's that. I touched on Peyton, Donaldson, no other real injuries right now to report from Manny's side. As far as other things go, talked about Derek King, some of the things he said, talked about Jared Williams, some of the things he had to say. And then yesterday with Bubba Bolden, talking about facing Terry, DJ Ivy, also spoke. And DJ kind of knows. I think you guys have a lot of attention on DJ to play well. And DJ knows this, although he says he doesn't pay attention to the fans and things like that. But he knows he needed to play better, and he still has to play, continue his positive play moving forward. Miami certainly needs cornerbacks that can shut people down, especially when you're going right now, essentially the three corners that they're rolling with the majority of the time with Al Blades Jr. and Takori Couch as the 3. Okay, what else do we got? I'm gonna check. Hold on. It's like this every time, I swear, with the chat. I don't know why it always seems to... It takes a few minutes to get this thing going and showing up. But see if we can get this thing going. I see you guys' chat and on the side there. I want to make sure we can get this on screen a little bit. There we go. So maybe that'll work. But anyways, if you have any other questions, I can answer them and just kind of once again just kind of provide a little bit of feedback. A lot of talk right now. I know there's some Florida State fans in here. It's a lot of stuff. One thing Amari Cardi said, he still expects a good atmosphere for the game, even though there's not going to be a ton of fans. He thinks that the intensity will be there, and so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But just talking a little bit about Amari, had an article today about just he's dealing with the targeting calls. He had 2 ejections last year. One of the things that stood out to me when I asked him about that yesterday was he said there's scouting reports, and he felt like, there's even scouting reports for referees. So he feels like he knows that the reputation is out there. People are paying attention to him. He's dealt with the calls in each of the first 2 games. They were rescinded after reviewed, but he's dealing with it. And basically he, provides hard hits, and he talks about that. And then Manny spoke on his defense in the sense that guy plays the right way and those kind of things. So, but definitely, keep in mind, one thing that stood out to me about Amari was it was asked, does he look to send a message about these big hits? And he said no, and he just plays hard and that kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting. But he also said too a little bit that some of the things that I notice, my kind of reaction to some of these hits a little bit late getting there, and I think it results in those big hits. And he actually brought that up on his own with the last play. I think you guys saw that one on the tight end there. Pfeiffer with that big hit that was in question against Louisville, but he felt like if he was there a little bit earlier, it could have been a pick. So that's something he's looking to shore up and tighten up a little bit. So I think that's something to watch. But also the big thing that you do like is he's starting to see that play multiple times, and so he is reacting to that. And you never know in a big game like this what momentum can do. We've seen big hits in this series for years. So. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so other things about Amari I kind of mentioned in the article. I went back and looked at all the games last year in the ACC to see targeting calls. As far as Amari with the 2 ejections, it felt like a lot, but were there other players in the ACC that had more? What teams had the most? Those kind of things. So I went back to every game, looked at everything. I actually was keeping track of that last year. There was no player that got ejected more than Amari. There was one other player that got ejected twice as well. And as far as the team goes, the team that had the most ejections was Florida State. They had 5, and there was 5 different players last year with the targeting calls. So 5 for Florida State, 4 for Pitt. So those were the top 2 teams in the ACC. So just kind of breaking that down. But again, an article on the site if you guys want to see that. Tazland is here. I don't think I'm shout out to you, so appreciate you. Any final questions, let me know. Yeah, just definitely let me know. But it's good to see the chat is working. I'll see if we can't get that thing figured out earlier. So J Miami is going on here. Got some other people just jumping on. Again, if you guys are just jumping on, reason why I'm doing this is because I want to talk about today's interviews. Talked about Manny Diaz, some of the news that kind of came out with injuries, my interpretations or my reactions towards those, and also some of the stuff with the wide receiver talking with De'Aaron King. Jared Williams talked today. It was good to hear from Jared. He's a new guy to the team, so we don't get to hear from him too much. And then also Lou Headley jumped on, Jose Borregales yesterday, DJ Ivy yesterday, Bubba Bolden. And so that was good. A good number of guys talking about the team. So I think that's good. What else do we got? Okay. Where did I see it? Oh, Taz, I love the show. Yeah, I saw it. I want to make sure I saw who said it. But Taz, appreciate you, man. But also I appreciate you guys and all the support, man. Like, this is why I'm doing it. It's for you guys. Again, plenty of articles on the site, doing stuff with the videos, but this is just another way to maybe kind of talk to you guys or answer any questions you might have or explain a little bit better than some of the stuff with articles, or if you have any questions and comments. So definitely like keeping this thing going. And also trying to get into a little bit of a routine here. Now that games on Saturdays, we're starting to understand when interviews are, dealing with that, and also when certain players and coaches talk and things like that. Because it's been pretty regular over the last few years, but just a little bit different with setup with practices and not being able to be out there like normal. So definitely appreciate it. Phil DeCane, appreciate the support, man. That's awesome on that super chat. I appreciate you. Like I said earlier, I noticed that you're in here quite a bit, so I appreciate you supporting and jumping on. And now with the super chat, man, I definitely appreciate you. I know you're hyped for the game. So only a few days left before the game. And like I said, I'm working on that simulation. I got some things I got to do. I got to touch up that and kind of working on some other stuff too. So there's definitely going to be more content coming on. So Martin, yeah, I'll talk about Navon just real quick because I touched on him earlier. So I don't want to repeat too much about it, but basically, Martin, my point is I think it's great that he's coming back or that he's working with the team. It doesn't sound like there's a timetable yet. I think it's great that they don't have to rush him in because they've got a line right now. Also, Navon doesn't have to worry about playing in 4 games or any of that stuff because it doesn't matter. So if he gets in just 1 game, or maybe he's okay to play in 2 just to get in and any of that stuff I think is great. If he's able to do that, feels healthy enough. I think it's great that he's working with the team. And also my stance is, because of how they reacted towards the left guard position from the first game, with not going ahead and making the switch until after the game, because things were working out well. They felt like things were going okay during the game in terms of offense was doing well. They were running for over 300 yards and they were winning, that kind of thing. They didn't want to make the move until after the game going with Clark. Martin, my point is with that, because I'm thinking that's how they're going to approach the Navon Donaldson situation moving forward, in the sense that, look, if the offense is still doing well, everyone's healthy on the line, they're developing some continuity, even though Navon has played a lot, I just maybe think that they will just take him and use him in a secondary role if he's able to play, and not break that up. It's kind of just my interpretation at this point in time, but obviously if that guard position struggles, because that's where you're going to use Navon, or if someone gets hurt or anything like that, things can obviously change. But I just think it's good that we're hearing that he's working out with the team. I think that's a positive sign, even though it's not contact right now. What else do we got? And I know I saw something earlier. I just kind of glanced. I saw you guys talking about the past and not want to talk about the past and things like that. I'm going to talk about the past real quick. Just my first Miami Florida State game that I covered was in 2003. If you guys remember that one. It was the first one. They played twice that year, but it was the first one up in Tallahassee. A lot of rain. That was the game. Sean Taylor had a monster game. It felt like he had 5 interceptions that game all over the field. And I remember even back then, memes weren't popular and things like that. But I remember seeing the image of Sean Taylor kind of put in every single defensive spot on an image, essentially showing that he was literally all over the field. So rain-soaked game. Miami came out with the win. And they went ahead and played Florida State in the Orange Bowl. So same season. So yeah, that was my first one. I remember just once again, the intensity, you hear about it and actually seeing it and how important it is to players to play well in that game. So yeah, that was my first game, and been to a bunch since, at the Orange Bowl and Hard Rock and back up to Doak Campbell, and always a good time. Once again, just it's probably for you guys too, your favorite game on the schedule. And it's no different as a reporter, because you like writing about big games and games that are meaningful to both sides. Most of the time teams have been ranked in this matchup. One thing that kind of looking back, and maybe we'll see how it goes, but Florida State's never beaten Miami when Miami's been ranked and Florida State has not. It's happened only six times in the history of the series, going back to 51. So obviously things have been close. It happened in 2017 and 18. Miami was ranked in both of those games, but Miami won even though it was close. So it's, I just found that to be interesting. And again, most of the time both teams are ranked, and so it's kind of a rarity, obviously, if one side isn't. So there we go with that. But yeah, definitely always enjoy the game. And only a few more days, man. Like hopefully everyone's as healthy as possible and everyone can play. And it is a big game there on Saturday night. So I want to get to a few more things before we wrap this up. Again, I was just trying to do something quick, instant reaction. I want to do more of this. I kind of still want, like the pregame show that we did last week, talked about some different position units, showed you guys some practice highlights and things like that. I think that was a good discussion. I'd like to do that more, and we can talk more about matchups. I think that'd be very interesting to really dive into some matchups to watch, not just the Terry thing or with Marvin up front, just to really, maybe some certain things to really look for. So any other questions I can get to real quick? Once again, just kind of talking about the interviews and the things there. Once again, if you guys are just jumping on, 60% off an annual subscription, InsideTheU right now. Check that out on the website. It's a really great deal. I think it's cool. So it just comes out to $42. So there we go. What else do we got here? All kinds of stuff. You guys are getting into it. I like it. I like that everyone's excited about this game. And I know it's tough that you wish you could be there, everybody full crowd, and tailgates. And I know those are always a lot of fun, especially with the game being at night. Some of you guys remember maybe some of the big Miami Florida State games at noon. I thought those were fun. Or that 3:30 the afternoon, any type of just that big game during the day, I think is a lot of fun too, because it's a little bit rare. The way things work now with TV and stuff, they try to put those primetime games on. So we'll see. So once again, Miami, Florida State on Saturday. Miami will then have a week off before they face number 1 Clemson. So definitely these 3 games, Miami's been working towards obviously being productive, getting the offense on point, making sure the defense kind of filling roles and figuring out where they want to be, because you definitely want to be competitive in that Clemson game, and maybe you can pull something off there, because it's definitely going to be a tough game for sure. But Miami has to take care of business. Won 3 in a row against Florida State. Real quick, after the game, I thought, just kind of going back on some interviews, I thought it was interesting. A couple players, Jalen Knighton, former Florida State commit, and then Al Blades Jr., obviously his father played at Miami. Both of those guys talked about dominating, coming out and dominating this game. And I thought that was interesting talk, and I think that's how they feel about every game. I don't, they just want to come out and play well. But I thought it was particularly important that they felt that strong about playing well in this game. I don't think Miami, I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say they're overlooking Florida State by that talk. I just think they're a confident team right now. And they're confident with that offense. Things are a lot different when your offense is rolling. You feel like you can do enough. You feel like you always have a threat to score. I feel there's a different sense when the offense is doing well. And I wrote on the site today that the last time Miami's ranked higher in total offense than total defense is 2016. So it's been a few years that Miami's had a better offense. I think this year, I don't think the 2 games are an aberration. I think they do have a better offense. I think that, not surprised. I felt like that going into the year. I think there's a lot of attention with Rhett Lashley. I just think De'Aaron King is making such a huge difference with this team. I think there's more he can do. So we'll see how it goes. So, okay, I'm going to wrap this thing up, but I appreciate everybody. If you have any more questions on the team, you can drop in the comments on this. Once again, I'm going to put that VIP article on Brevin Jordan about how he's being used differently in the offense. If you guys are considering subscribing to the channel, so I think that's great. Phil DeCane, a huge shout out to you once again on that super chat donation. Appreciate you and everybody here that's jumping on and having a good time and talking about this game. Plenty to talk about. We'll keep it going. Once again, I'll go ahead and pump out those simulations, and just appreciate everybody once again. If you have any questions, comments, anything, be sure to do that. Real quick, a couple people I saw here. I saw Greg jumped on it. Appreciate you, and Kevin as well. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you guys. Uncle Joe's here. So I appreciate you guys also, and Madry's here. So, okay, well, good. Appreciate everybody. Keep checking out the channel. Be sure, if you like this video, if you like these streams right after interviews, hit the like button. And if you could, subscribe to the channel. It's a huge help. And we got to get to 20,000. That's the goal. That's the next one. I know it's a huge goal, but I know we can do it because you guys are great. So thanks again. And I'll wrap this thing up. Appreciate everybody. Be well, be safe. And I'll talk to you soon.